Hi, my name is Annie Little, and this is my case study with Brother Wilson. I'm here at Brigham Young University, Idaho. For who they are, so I did my case study on my niece. She's in the fourth grade currently. Um, she has a very high reading level for what she is at. She, from the time she was little, her parents read to her, and from the time she was in first grade, she started reading Harry Potter, which is currently a fourth grade reading level. And so I knew that finding her frustration level or reading with her was going to be difficult to see what her frustration level was, to see what things she was able to understand. And she's had a lot of practice with speaking and listening skills, as well as writing skills, as she's been competing in contests and been able to practice that as well in school. For what they bring, for reading, when I was reading with her, she does a lot of tracking with her finger. She will go slowly because she loses her place. She'll have to go back and see, but she'll use her finger to track. With writing, she's pretty comfortable with using new words, or that's also the case with speaking. She looks people in the eyes. With listening, I've noticed that she would wait before answering so she could understand the question, and if not, she would re-ask, understand to make sure that she understood the question before answering. For strategies, when I was reading with her, I read 3 books with her. I read Life of Pi was the first book I read with her, and then I also read The Great Gatsby and Tom Sawyer. Tom Sawyer was the middle and Great Gatsby was the highest. There were a lot of words that she skipped over, and she was pretty good about sounding out the words. On some of the bigger words, like in Great Gatsby, she would wait for me to give her the word because they were harder words, and that was the frustration level for her. With listening, when I asked her a question, if she understood the book or if she understood a specific part of the book when I asked her about it, she was able to understand and answer back with intent and use words from the book that she had just read. And with speaking, she's able to communicate well with adults and peers and be able to look people in the eye, like I said, with skills as well. In terms of vocabulary that is specific to my content, because my content area is so broad, I chose the sewing area. And so I first want to talk about the 3 tiers of vocabulary. First being the tier 1. That I thought would be a dog, not that being an animal dog, but a feeding dog used on the machine of a sewing machine. In terms of tier 2, I thought would be crocheting. You can use crocheting in more conversations, but it's not the most common unless you're specifically talking about that. And then applique, that one I feel like is specifically content specific to sewing, or if you are specifically talking about applique. So those are the 3 tiers. Now in terms of the 6 areas, dog I don't feel like is in area 1. I do feel like crochet could be in their oral but not in their written. Um, with area 2, I definitely is dog would be an example of this one. It is there's a new meaning for this word, as it is meaning something different than what students might originally think. Area 3, this one could be the applique. It is not in their, they might have heard the word applique, but it may not be in their oral, they're written, depending on their age level. And also with applique, I feel like could be a new, which is in area 4. And then area 5, you could clarify with either crocheting or appliquing as you clarify the meaning of already known words. And then area 6 is to moving all of these words, dog, crochet, and applique, into their everyday content. And so they're getting used to using these words into vocabulary. In terms of instructional plan, I feel like there are many ways to teach vocabulary in your content area. Some ways that I thought of you can teach vocabulary is to use a word wall. You can have the students, if they find a word that they don't know, you can put it up on the word wall yourself and ask the students. You can come together and look it up, or you can have them act it out, see if they know, or just to try and get that before they even look it up. Or you can have them go and look it up themselves. There are just many different ways of using that method to use for teaching vocabulary. The ultimate goal is to make sure that they are using it in their everyday content. You want to, in everyday context, you want to make sure that when they come to class, that they are using vocabulary appropriate to your content area. And you want to make sure that you are not only practicing using vocabulary orally, but you also making sure that you are practicing it through writing as well. And so some ways that I thought of for practicing that are through writing it, for having your students write papers, and you have to say a specific number of vocabulary words that have to be required in that paper that are used properly. There are some positive and negatives through different strategies that you can use when teaching vocabulary, and when used properly, hopefully you can get your students to use it, come to class and to use those vocabulary words in your content area. With alignment to the standards, for the alignment to standards, I had the reading standard, which talks about making sure that they are aligning their reading. The second Writing 5 standard says to develop and strengthen writing as needed by planning, revising, editing, rewriting, or trying a new approach. And so with this standard, I wanted to see if there was a way that I could talk about, I could strengthen my niece's writing as well as not only her reading, but through her projects and things that she has done with school, that I could help her strengthen that and help her revise And then with the writing standard 9 is to draw evidence from literary or informational text to support analysis, reflection, and research. And so from that, I wanted to see if she's going to be able to take things that she knows, different things, whether that would be text or information, and to use that in her writing, I'm sorry. And then with reading standards, I chose the second and the sixth reading standard. The second one talks about to determine central ideas or themes of a text and analyze their development, summarize the key supporting details and ideas. With this alignment to standard, I wanted to see if she's going to be able to take what I have read with her, that'd be like a chapter or a little paragraph from the book, and be able to summarize the key points and get those main ideas from the text. And then with the sixth one is to assess how point of view or purpose shapes the content and style of a text. And so I wanted to see from reading if she was able to get the point from the characters, from what was being said, and from drawing a conclusion with how things were going to go from the book, even if I didn't read the full book with her, or even as I was just trying to get a little, she was just getting a little taste of what that book was about. I wanted to see if she was able to draw purpose and assess how points of view were going to pan out in that book. In terms of what happened, this is a general overall consensus of what happened when I read with my niece. Like I said, I read the 3 books with her, and the hardest book I would say would have to be between Tom Sawyer or The Great Gatsby, just because with Tom Sawyer there were a lot of, it's that the context of how it is written, and it has that slang, and also with Great Gatsby it has a lot of bigger words that she was not familiar with, and so she skipped over those words, or she'd wait for me to tell her those words, and she was able to get a general overall consensus of what happened in that book. But in terms of knowing what those words meant, those bigger words meant, she was not able to tell me, because they were new to her. Like I said, she did skip over a lot of words with those books, some of those harder books for her, and sometimes she would add, especially with Tom Sawyer, because of the context, she would add words to help her make it more sense to her. And when I asked her about certain phrases that I thought might be hard, she was able to draw a conclusion, which helps align with the standard that I wanted to get from her, which helped me understand that she was able to draw conclusions and be able to assess how certain get the points of view and context of the style, as well as draw an overall theme from the context. Thank you for listening to my case study.